Tonight, an unsolved mysteries. Tales of a giant serpent living in Lake Champlain, dating back to the time when Native Americans lived in the area. But over the years, many have come to believe the creature is real. There have been hundreds of reported sightings. The locals have even given it a name, Champ. Sandra Mancy grew up near Lake Champlain. When she was a child, her grandfather teased her with scary tales of the legendary sea creature. She states, and I quote, "Grandfather told us about Champ, and when we would go fishing, he would say to us, 'If you don't sit down and behave in the boat, I'm going to throw you over and Champ's going to eat you.' Of course, we didn't believe a word of it." Then in July of 1977, Sandra, her two children, and her fiancé, Tony, were on vacation near Lake Champlain. And this is her story. "We stopped at this one place, and the children were down further on the beach, having a great time. And Tony decided to go back to the car and get the camera. And I'm looking out at the lake, and the lake started churning. My first thought was scuba divers, but then it's too much. It'd be too big of a group of scuba divers. But then fish. There's some very large sturgeon and big walleyes in Champlain. So I thought, well, it's a very, very large school of fish. Then the head and the neck came up out of the water, and then the back. And I watched it turn its head and neck and looked around. When it first came up, its mouth was open, and I could see water coming out of the mouth. And I'm feeling like I shouldn't be there, because to me, this thing should have been extinct 30 million years ago. But I'm not frightened. I'm in total awe and very calm. And then Tony came back and he saw it. And he got all panicky, screaming and hollering at the kids to get out of the water. He helped me up the bank, and when he did, he handed me the camera and I turned around. It was still there. And I picked up the camera and took one shot. This here is a copy of the photograph that Sandra took. You can see some sort of creature coming out of the water. Long neck, small head, and a back. Just like she said. When Sandra saw the picture she'd taken, she was certain it was Champ. She was equally certain that no one would believe her. So she threw away the negative and kept the photo hidden from the world. Finally, Sandra had the snapshot blown up into an 8 by 10 inch print. She contacted Joey Zatrinsky, who'd written a book about Champ. Joey sent the print to the University of Arizona to be analyzed. Cryptozoologist Richard Greenwell states, and I quote, We digitalized it and ran all sorts of computer enhancement techniques. We were looking for pulleys, ropes, or anything like that. But we found no evidence of hoaxing, and we concluded that the object, whatever it is, was alive there in the lake. At that estimated distance, it wasn't any sort of superimposition. When the photograph was released, it caused a media sensation. The New York Times and Life magazine carried the story. Was it really a sea monster? Richard Greenwell wondered if Champ was a prehistoric animal that had somehow managed to survive. And he states, the object in the Mansi photograph resembled a plesiosaur, which is an aquatic reptile from the Cretaceous, about 60 to 70 million years ago. Long neck and flippers, it resembles that. But that's a long time to have survived. Another idea was that Champ may be a zeuglodon, a snake-like whale extinct for 20 million years. Or perhaps Champ was simply a lake sturgeon, which have been known to reach 7 feet in length. No matter what it was, ever since the Mansi photograph went public, dozens of eyewitnesses have reported sightings of Champ. On July 7th, 1988, Walter DePan, his wife Sandy, and their daughter Heidi went out on Lake Champlain with a camcorder. They were sure they'd seen Champ the previous evening. Walter hoped lightning would strike twice in the same place. He states, and I quote, "It was a quiet night, just as still as glass, like the first night had been, and I was full of anticipation and excitement, but also not necessarily expecting anything. Then they spotted one not far from the boat, at the most 50 or 60 feet from the boat, and then began shooting footage for about 20 or 30 seconds of these humps gliding along. First 2, then 3, then 4, then suddenly 5, all in a row, stretching out about 20 feet. Walter's wife described what she saw. She states, I had probably, I would say, 7 different sightings. So I decided to climb up and stand on the sun deck. And I just scanned the water like that. And lo and behold, I saw one of those bull humps coming along the water. And then all of a sudden, the neck and the head came up. And it looked right at me. I will never forget it. And I was screaming with excitement, which I wish I wasn't doing, because it went down more rapidly, came back, and then very gracefully, very slowly submerged back down into the water. Walter had no doubt about what he, his wife, and daughter had seen. He states, and I quote, "There was no time for me to get the camera and refocus. I'd give anything now to have that on footage, because what Sandy saw was, of course, an astounding thing. This creature looking at us and lifting its head out of the water. And what it did was to confirm, absolutely, for all of us. And what we had seen was Champ. Scientific opinion is varied, but at least one expert believes that what Walter Tapan photographed was nothing more than a school of fish. But who can explain the Mansi photograph, or the hundreds of eyewitness accounts recorded through the centuries? For Sandri Massey, it can be only one thing. If you yourself have seen Champ or any other mysterious creature, call in to Unsolved Mysteries. Provide your eyewitness account, and maybe you can help provide evidence that will help solve a mystery.